Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 13th of September. And, well, if you're excited about the current pop in futures to the pre-market, I wouldn't be too thrilled because every time we've seen this white NBI above magenta, we're looking at a retrace to the 50%, if not more, if it maintains itself. So that's just been the past occurrence. Of course, right now you're seeing a rise in DOC steel, which is enough to hold it up, but it's not been a positive from a market standpoint. So even if you get a day or two up, it usually does reflect that. So bear that in mind. And that 50% number is all the way back down at 43.77. So that would be a significant move, and it's one of those that, you know, you're likely to have a big volume day, and that it's coinciding with what I talked about, where, you know, everyone is pretty much returning back to the normal schedules from summer breaks. We could start to see a lot more action, so it could be exciting. Flipping to gold. It's expressed weakness there, indication that still the certainty of inflation that is not there. You've got some of the counter effects, and of course, oil is going to play a big key into that, as well as the continuation of, you know, ramped up talk about more restrictions, more, I call it fear economy, which really slows investment. And from a broader perspective, this is, I think, what you would see the definite impact between two different viewpoints. One that says, you know, big business should run everything. The other saying that, you know, small business and personal growth drive economies. And so it's that disparage difference between the two that really is leading to what we've got now, which is a lot of general confusion, because anytime you look at centrally planned governments, they end up not doing so great. China worked out well for a while until, you know, the credit bubble for them started to collapse, and actually during the Trump administration was really taking a nosedive. But for the change in presidency, probably would have seen China under far more strain than it is now, interestingly enough. And from a euro standpoint, again, this is going to be battling back. This kind of perfect one where you go up, retrace back to the 50 here. Might be a little bit less than that, because, again, similar situation here. And again, if it's one of those where Europeans are realizing they better move their investment, and at least to the U.S. temporarily, because the Eurozone is far worse from a growth standpoint, with far bigger negative yields. Again, that's going to be a fight between the Fed and, you know, the rest of the populations. I'm certain the Fed will win that one, as they always do from a Bitcoin standpoint. Continued weakness here, and some of that drawdown is going to be a move into other investments, and we'll see if it's going to continue. What's interesting looking at the program setup from it, whenever I see that spike of white going above, as soon as I know that I get any kind of pop with magenta still above, once it dips below is when I would do it. So it's a matter of the code working with it to get the exact combinations. You combine it with no DOC steel reset, and you get a good combination for it as soon as it flips over. So it's one of those where instead of shorting down at the low, I would wait for the pop and do it there. So it's just a matter of getting it to convert to do that. And that's the same that we see intraday. 50K chart, whatever. Likewise right here, NBI white spike. And it's a difficult one because there's nothing wrong with a GAM purchase when that starts, but as soon as it flips to magenta lower, you really want to be out of that setup. So it's one of those where I may create a setup break-even stop kind of effect within it, so that it corrects for those little things. And these are the things where sometimes we can see what the program isn't necessarily going to get. And as soon as that dipped below, we knew that there was going to be increased difficulty for the market. And again, it popped up magenta above yellow, but as soon as it dipped below with MBI white over the red, you can see the effect of that on the tail end. And even here with the white spike and magenta rising, that can still be bullish on the upside of it, but as soon as it pivots, it goes the exact opposite direction. So that's something I want you to look for when this little pop, because all this is doing is really bringing us back to the 23% off the steady decline. And that could rise as much as, I would think maybe as much as the 38%, but we'll see how much strength it's got in there. And particularly, you had a steel reset here, the dip back to the zero level, but on this pivot, you're not getting it. And so I think any sustained move up at this particular point is literally temporary. Here's another perfect example of what I was talking about with the MBI white spike. So magenta is still leading, so you're fine there, but as soon as it breaks below, which is right about here, the expectation is to move to the 0%. Did exactly that, so it's just a matter of reworking where that first short takes place to the cover point, which there's nothing wrong with that one. If you would be moved down to the zero, it's just a matter of saying, hey, do I have a pivot back of the MBI magenta coming back up? And in this particular case, you did. Also had steel reset at that particular point. And I'll measure the two once I can convert it. It's a matter of marking that pivot and then waiting for that MBI yellow below and checking the range of where it is. And, from a profitability, of course, on the turnaround, GAM buy, and again, probably okay at this particular stage. We didn't have a spike of weight above. It's possible that works out a little bit later with this part of that temporary drive. As you can see, before we had that long short, we ended up with an interesting little muck period back here intraday on the 5K, which was interesting from a strategy standpoint because, again, a lot of it took place with the white MBI leading in this case, and it was pretty much between 0 and 23. We talked about it on the Skype chat where, I like to look for at least a close above the 23% within the last 5 bars. That usually gives you one of those where you'll reset. Sometimes you test right above and then you come back to the 0 or slightly lower low, and that becomes the much more effective buy. That way you don't have the drawdown aspect. So I'll be working on the adjustment for that program here to take care of that, and we'll continue to post about these varied scenarios, and it's just a matter of working the language so that it's consistent throughout a broad spectrum and not specific to any one moment in the market. We want it to be broadly based in totality, and I'm happy with the upper sell shorts seem to be working exactly as expected, and then it's just a matter of the two elements of when you get into sideways action and or a long chop. Those two have a little bit different bearing. And we can see that when we got here, we ended up with just quite a few different points where there were spikes of the white. And in that case, you're just waiting for a return to the 0%. So it's at those particular points that I want to look for my MBI cross, because that's where you can capture right near the lows for turnaround moves. But as always, I will continue to post updates and let you know if there are any additional ones. There were a few. I know that we see the P2 pivots here. I was also going to create one of those for the orange setup, and it should be exciting to see that alteration. As always, though, trade well. We'll talk again later.